That's the way we got to know it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so what happens as a function of that is that we're transformed. You know, there's something incredibly powerful about this unconditional acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, when we really experience
With ourselves as well.
with ourselves or with others, when we really experience that everything is accepted as it is, all of a sudden something relaxes into a level that is impossible to describe. It's almost like we sink into the fabric of life so that we are no longer living life, we are life itself. You know, it's just we begin to see life and experience life in a very, very different way.
Yeah.
And that doesn't last forever. You know, none of us are in that state all the time.
Right.
Life is guiding us through different places all of the time. So I guess what I'm saying is this. For me, the awakening is not associated with some idea of perfection.
Yeah.
You'll get whatever you want.
Uh-huh.
You'll never get sick again. Your relationships will be perfect forever. I've not found that to be true in my own life, nor have I found it to be true in anyone else's life.
Yeah.
What I have found, however, is we become more accepting of what life brings us, even though it may not be comfortable. We gradually become softer with it. We gradually begin to recognize that no one has it together. There's no such thing as together. This is part and parcel of what we call life. And so that acceptance for me is a pinnacle of our seeing. It has something to do with how we see life, how we understand life. It has to do with the fact that, for me, I don't feel like I'm driving the car of life. I feel that I'm being divinely guided through this discovery that life is looking for me. All of a sudden, it takes a lot of weight off my shoulders.
And that comes from paying attention, to bring it back to what we were talking about, just paying attention to the next directive, the next, one at a time, huh?
Let's go from paying attention, because paying attention, you have to pay for it.
Aha.
And I'm speaking about something a little bit more subtle. What I'm saying is this. When something enters the awareness of an infant, there's a reflexive movement. It's involuntary. They don't have to be attentive. They are literally realigned with this thing in life that is calling to them. The presence is. There isn't anyone being present. They're just being moved by life. So what I'm speaking about sounds like the same words, but it's just subtly different. There isn't somebody there being present. There is someone there that is being taken, just being moved down the river of life. It's just moving them. And it takes a while to recognize those thoughts we think we're having versus the thoughts that are having us. It takes a while to recognize what's coming into the mind, what we're conjuring up or think we're conjuring up, versus what enters our awareness and is calling us. And there's just...
And how can one become more sensitized to that? I mean...
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know
Yeah.
how to share that with you, but one of the things that comes to me when you ask that is, you know, in today's world, there's so much about making things happen. Focusing your thoughts, what you want to make things happen. One of the things that I've become aware of is most people think that they're the thinkers of the thought. when one has activity in this thing we call the mind, and thinking is happening, how is it that you're aware of it? The only reason you're aware of it is because you're observing it. You are observing it, which means you are the observer of that activity in the mind, or some sense in the body. So the identification is no longer with the chatter in the mind. The identification is with something, let's call it the final set of eyes. Something that is sitting in the grandstand, just observing this activity. Once you begin to recognize that the only reason that you're aware of the thinking process is because you're observing the process. And the reason that you can observe the change happening in the thoughts is because what is observing it doesn't change. See, in order to perceive change, something has to be standing still. Something has to be non-changing. Now, we say the only constant is change. Everything is always changing. Well, if everything was always changing, we wouldn't be able to perceive change. The only reason we are aware of something changing is because that which is aware is not changing. It's constant. Now, for me, and other people may have a different experience, but for me, that awareness, I don't experience it talking. I only experience it as seeing. It just notices. It's just aware. As that identification happens from thinking that we're the thinker in the mind, being centered in the mind, to recognizing that the only reason we recognize the thoughts is because we're observing them, then all of a sudden we begin to be able to separate the chatter from that which is filtering into the awareness. Once that happens, there's a huge shift.
Well, we only have a minute left, but I do want to. There's a new device you have called an iPort.
Yeah, it's
we just have a minute, but I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, one of the things that I've developed in the last few years is something called the iPort Vision Training System, and listeners can find out about it at exerciseyoureyes.com.
Wonderful.
And what it is a device that improves visual performance. It's a device that improves everything from attention and reading efficiency and comprehension to how well you play golf, because it fine-tunes the body's guidance system. But beneath what it does on a clinical level, it also does something different to the way that we see, because it allows us to experience how to see without effort. Not so much how to look, but how to notice what's entering our awareness, how to notice what's moving us. And once we notice that something is entering our awareness, that life is calling to us, that we are continually being moved by life, then the questioning about, am I going the right place? Am I on the track? Am I off the track? We realize those questions don't exist, that there is no way of being off the track. That the intelligence of life that's guiding the movement of every flower, every tree, every animal, the weather patterns, and everything else is breathing us, and it's living us.
Well, Jacob, thank you for coming into my awareness.
Thank you for coming into mine.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So that's it for this episode of Life on Maui. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And again, thanks to Serendipity Maui for the wardrobe. And until next time, aloha.
Call me crazy, but I'm never giving up my dreams. No matter how far away they seem, maybe crazy